Before we begin, here's a look at the latest headlines. Air raid alerts ring across Israel after rocket fire from Lebanon. The latest Hezbollah attack comes after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he is ready for talks on Lebanon. Japanese Music Prime Minister Sana Kai says that the government would release an extra 20 days' worth of oil reserves from next month. The Asian nation began tapping music its stockpiles in March to temper a spike in prices caused by the war in West Asia. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is heading to Singapore today to bolster ties with a key refined fuel supplier amid global energy crisis. Australia imports around 90% of music its refined petroleum products. Chinese President Xi Jinping meets Taiwan's opposition party leader Chang Ing-wen in a rare visit. Tong music changes she hopes to sow the seeds of peace in Beijing. U.S. First Lady Melania Trump makes a music surprise statement denying any knowledge of late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's music abuse. She says the lies linking her with him need to end today. As the shaky ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran enters day 3, the status of the Strait of Hormuz remains at the center of the ongoing crisis. In the latest, President Donald Trump has accused Iran of doing a very poor job of allowing oil to pass through Hormuz, calling it a breach of the ceasefire understanding. He has also warned Tehran against imposing any toll on ships, even as earlier remarks from his side hinted at a possible joint mechanism. Trump says oil will flow through Hormuz with or without Iran. The response is more measured. The new Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei says Iran does not seek to extend the war, but he has made it clear that Iran will not give up what it considers its sovereign rights, a position that directly includes control over Hormuz. In peacetime, nearly a fifth of the world's oil and gas flows through the narrow stretch of water, making Hormuz not just a shipping lane, but a lifeline for the global economy. But since the first U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran, access through the strait has been tightly restricted by Tehran. Ships have faced approval processes, limited routes, and heightened security risks. Under the ceasefire terms, reopening Hormuz was a key condition. Iran initially agreed but restricted access through Hormuz again in response to Israel's ongoing strikes on Lebanon. And the numbers show just how limited the reopening has been since the ceasefire took effect. Only 10 vessels have passed through the strait, including just 4 oil tankers. That's a sharp drop from normal levels, with traffic still down by nearly 90%. Hundreds of ships remain struck on either side, and most of the movement so far has been linked to Iran or friendly countries. Iran is now adding another layer to its control, a proposed toll-based system for ships crossing the strait. Now, according to multiple reports, vessels could be charged up to $2 million per transit, or roughly $1 per barrel of oil, with some indications that payments may be demanded in cryptocurrency or Chinese yuan. The Iranian state media is justifying it as a way to fund reconstruction, but it is also sparking global concern over the precedent it could set. We are here to actually pronounce what the law actually says, and international law provides for the freedom of navigation, which means what it means: basically no payment or toll whatsoever. Again, the Strait Line and the Strait of Hormuz, like any other maritime lane, is a public good for all humanity. Which means what? Which means that the navigation must be free. So where does this leave the situation? A ceasefire that's barely holding, a critical waterway that remains tightly controlled, and rising tension over who ultimately decides the rule of the passage. The political firestorm in the U.S. over Iran war is intensifying. And this time the clash is not between Democrats and Republicans, but within Donald Trump's own support base. President Trump has launched a sharp attack on some of the biggest names in conservative media, people who were seen as his strongest allies. In a series of posts on his social media platform, Trump targeted Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones, calling them low IQ and losers. They're stupid people. They know it. Their families know it. And everyone else knows it too. Look at their past. Look at their record. They don't have what it takes, and they never did. They've all been thrown off television, lost their shows, and aren't even invited on TV because nobody cares about them. They're nut jobs, troublemakers, and will say anything necessary for some free and cheap publicity. Trump's attacks come after these figures publicly criticize his handling of the Iran war. The West Asia conflict has exposed deep divisions within the MAGA movement. Many are now calling it a major rift inside MAGA. Trump, however, said these commentators were not MAGA and accused them of trying to gain attention by attacking him. He even said he now refuses to take their calls. The backlash from these conservative voices has been equally sharp. Podcaster Candace Owens had mocked Trump online, suggesting that he is a lunatic and should be put in a home. The 25th Amendment needs to be invoked. He is a genocidal lunatic. Our Congress and military need to intervene. We are beyond madness. And American radio host Alex Jones went even further, claiming Trump was being manipulated and raised questions about his mental state. Meanwhile, conservative commentator Tucker Carlson had called military action against Iranian civilians dangerous and unjustified. And Megyn Kelly on her podcast expressed frustration over Trump's war rhetoric and threats to destroy an entire civilization. Trump had campaigned on a promise of no new wars, a message that resonated strongly within his supporters. But his current posture on Iran, including strong military threats, has left many of his backers feeling betrayed. Some conservatives also believe the U.S. is being drawn into a broader conflict due to its alliance with Israel, a claim that has further deepened the divide. Trump, however, has defended his position, saying preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons is central to his America First agenda. Trump had earlier insisted that true MAGA is about winning and strength and said that his critics do not understand that, but this public falling out highlights a growing fracture. Can Trump reunify his supporters in time for midterms, or is this the moment where MAGA movement begins to splinter? Moving on to our final story. Pakistan's defense minister has launched a scathing attack on Israel over its strikes in Lebanon, triggering a sharp response from Israel's top leadership at a time when the ceasefire is under strain. Pakistan's defense minister Khwaja Asaf, in a post on X, called Israel evil and a curse for humanity, accusing it of committing genocide in Lebanon amid ongoing peace talks. He said innocent civilians were being killed, adding that violence has continued from Gaza to Iran and now Lebanon. The post has now been deleted, but as remarks came after Pakistan's foreign ministry had already condemned Israeli military actions in Lebanon. His statements marked a significant escalation in rhetoric directly targeting Israel during a sensitive diplomatic phase where Islamabad is scheduled to host the peace talks. Israel responded strongly. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the remarks outrageous and said such statements cannot be tolerated, especially from a country positioning itself as a neutral mediator. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Essay has strongly pushed back against Pakistan's remarks. Israel views very gravely these blatant anti-Semitic blood libels from a government claiming to mediate peace. Calling the Jewish state cancerous is effectively calling for its annihilation. Israel will defend itself against terrorists who vow its destruction. Meanwhile, this comes as Netanyahu has said his government is ready to hold direct talks with Lebanon. He said the negotiations would focus on disarming Hezbollah and working towards peaceful relations. However, the situation on the ground remains dire. As of Thursday, Israel's military want residents in Beirut's southern suburbs to evacuate ahead of possible strikes. The area is known as a stronghold of Hezbollah. Now, this comes a day after Israel carried out some of its deadliest strikes in Lebanon, triggering a major escalation. In response, Hezbollah also fired rockets into northern Israel. Israel and the United States maintain that Lebanon is not part of the two-week truce, while Iran and Pakistan say it should be included. Adding another layer to the situation, Iranian media reports that Tehran may suspend its upcoming talks with the United States in Islamabad if Israel continues its military operations in Lebanon. The U.S. and Iran had agreed to a two-week ceasefire just hours before Donald Trump's deadline for military action. The last-minute deal reportedly followed calls with Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif and Army Chief Aim Munir, who had pushed for a truce. With tensions rising and the ceasefire under strain, the region stands at a critical juncture where diplomacy and conflict are moving side by side. That's all for now. Thank you for joining us. I am Gushing Gala, and we'll see you right back here for more updates at Music First Post Live at 12. Until then, stay informed and stay tuned to First Post. Now, the world has been watching Iran because of what it has been quietly working on underground, uranium. And the question is, how much does Iran have? How close is it to a bomb? To understand that, we first need to understand what uranium actually is. Uranium is a naturally occurring metal. It is found in the Earth's crust. On its own, it's not a weapon. It's just a rock. But when you refine it through a process called enrichment, you start unlocking enormous amounts of energy. That energy can power a city. Or, if you push it far enough, it can level one. That's the double edge of uranium. The same material that fuels a nuclear power plant can, with enough processing, fuel a nuclear bomb. And that's exactly why Iran is being watched so closely. Next question. Where is Iran's uranium? Now, Iran does not keep its uranium in one place. It is spread across several facilities, most of them underground, deliberately buried to survive airstrikes. The main site is Natanz, a sprawling complex about 220 kilometers south of Thrawn. This is where Iran has installed thousands of centrifuges, machines that spin uranium gas at incredible speeds to concentrate its most powerful form. Then there's Photo, carved deep into a mountain designed specifically to be difficult to destroy. And then Isfahan. It's a conversion and fuel site. This became very significant in June 2025. Why? Because satellite images appeared to show Iran moving large containers of enriched uranium there. This was just days before Israeli and American airstrikes hit the other facilities. To this day, the UN nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, says it does not know exactly where Iran's uranium is. Next question then. How much uranium does Iran have? As of June 2025, just before the strikes, Iran's total enriched uranium stockpile was nearly 10,000 kilgas. Let me put that into perspective for you. Under the 2015 nuclear deal, Iran was only allowed to keep 202 kilos. It blew past that limit years ago. But not all uranium is equal. The danger isn't just how much Iran has, it is how refined that uranium is. So now, what is enriched uranium? Think of enrichment like coffee. Natural uranium is like a raw coffee bean. Potential energy, but not yet usable. Low enriched uranium refined to around 3 to 4% is what powers nuclear reactors. It keeps the lights on. Get to 20% and you are in research reactor territory. But push past that now, that's a very different conversation. At 90%, you have weapons-grade uranium, the kind that goes into a nuclear bomb. So the question becomes, how close is Iran to 90%? Iran's stockpile as of June 2025 looked like this. Nearly 6,000 kilos enriched to 5%. About 184 kilo was at 20%. Basically research level. And then the number that alarmed weapons experts, 440.9 kilori enriched to 60%. That is what rang the alarm bells. But why is that a big deal? Here's the thing. About 60% enrichment. There is no civilian use for it. Nuclear power plants don't need it. Research reactors don't need it. It has only one practical application, and that is to further upgrade it to weapons grade. Iran is the only country in the world without nuclear weapons that has ever produced uranium at this level. How many nuclear weapons could this make? The IAEA defines this as a significant quantity of nuclear material. Let me explain. To manufacture one nuclear warhead, roughly 25 kilos of uranium is sufficient. Iran's 440 kilowatt of 60% enriched uranium, once further processed to 90%, which is what is required for a nuclear weapon, would yield enough material for approximately 19, that's 9 to 12 nuclear weapons, 9 to 12. And the timeline to get there. According to a May 2025 U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency assessment, Iran would need less than a week to produce enough weapons uranium for a single bomb. It's important to note Israel has been saying that Iran is only weeks away or days away from 90% since 2012 at least. So the question the world is still trying to answer is, what does Iran intend to do with it? The world moves fast. Power shifts, unexpected developments, changing alliances. Every day brings a new headline. But headlines are only the beginning, because behind every story there is context. There are consequences, and there are questions worth asking. Find the answers. Understand the story. Take on the world.